Hey class, this week we did a reading over the Fires Guide and also how we looked at how communication scholars and how political scientists use the freedom of speech. Both articles were very good. I like reading both of them, but I really struck. I really felt strongly towards the Fires Guide because I feel like that's more relevant to us as students and how we use freedom of speech. So I'm gonna start with the Fires Guide because I'll probably talk about that longer. The Fires Guide, the author talks about the freedom of speech mainly on like school campuses and why we're in school and stuff like that. So in my point of view, the way I read it as um, schools they give us the freedom of speech, but to a certain extent. I feel like in general we are given the freedom of speech to a certain extent, but definitely on college campuses because they will tell us, oh, you guys can have your clubs that you can go on strike and you can have strong opinions about certain things, but at the same time they don't want us to have too much freedom of speech. And then he also likes to say they talk about the history of the freedom of speech and and how it was used in the past, but the history of freedom of speech it wasn't used how it is now. Then freedom of speech was used in the colonial days to get the colonists and the 13 colonies freedom from Great Britain, which they were using it as we are voicing our opinions that this is what we want, this is what we want to do. But when it came to schooling and schools and how they use this, more like we can voice our opinion, but if you say too much, that's if you have an opinion that's too strong, they will almost like blackball you almost because you can also use freedom of speech in many different ways. I'll get to that later. But in schools, I always felt like if we did have a paper that we could write about, and the teacher says, give your opinion on ABC, and we give our opinion on that subject, and the teacher can be like, dang, like this is ask for freedom of speech, but not this much freedom of speech, and not like, and I wanted you to give your opinion, but I didn't really ask for all that stuff. I didn't know you felt that strongly about that certain subject, and it's not a view that they totally agree on. So your grade may be lower than somebody else's, but your paper's better than somebody else's. And then schools also transformed the freedom of speech when it came to back in the civil rights movement when other students of color started coming to the school, black students started coming to the school, and people of other sexual orientation, gays, lesbians, and things like that. But, but then for the schools to get ahead of that and to fix that, then they came up with um, student codes and how to treat your fellow students and how to treat them with respect and how to treat them as your equal. But still to this day, students aren't treated equally. It may not be as blunt as back in the 1960s because back then people didn't care, people didn't have any filter. But I feel like today people still don't care, people still don't have a filter, but it's just said in a cleaner way. They can say oh yeah, we have openings for the school, and then you apply for the school. No, we don't have anymore. But you apply at the same time as a white student, and they get in, but you don't. Schools always have openings, but it's it's stuff like that. And and then the authors also say how they started to address hate speech and how that and freedom of speech are totally two totally different things. If you're talking about how much you hate somebody and how much you don't want to be in the same room as this person, how much you can't stand these people, it's two different things. And that's when school stepped in and said, that's not the same thing as freedom of speech. That's not the freedom of speech that we're giving you. Excuse me. That's not the freedom of speech we're giving you. We're giving the freedom of speech to write whatever you want and say whatever you want to a certain extent. And that's what I mean by they put chains on it. They put chains on freedom of speech. Even the government puts chains on freedom of speech because you've seen it with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan. Certain people they will let you hear and the government will portray them as, oh, this is somebody that we need to listen to. This is somebody that's speaking of enlightenment, and these are good things that we need to hear. When we came to Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan, it was always portrayed as they're speaking hate speech. They're speaking about how they don't like white America and how they can stand white Americans, how they hate white America. They want to kill us all and do this, this, and this. But really, Martin Luther King, he just wanted to be accepted. And he just wanted black people to have the same rights as everybody else, and that was good enough for him. But Malcolm X, he wanted that, but he also said if white people don't want to give black people what we want, we need to go ahead and we need to do our own thing. We need to have our own land separate from white America. If you guys don't want to give us these the bare minimum and whatever, and that's why he said by any means necessary, we will do whatever we have to get that. And that may be violence if violence is spewed at us, which has always been spewed at black people, or we can do it politically and in a formal way. Same with Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan. But on the flip side of that, with communication scholars and political scientists, they use it as more as an amendment. Like they use it for court cases, and they use it as like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and they use it to try to use it as, okay, I say schools, when it comes to schools and the freedom of speech and hearing other people talk and writing, that's the explicit side of it. When it comes to communication and political science majors, they use the clean side of it, and that's more like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom to do whatever you want. But they are defending it instead of shutting it down, because they can use it to a certain extent. You can have freedom of speech, but they use it differently. Communication scholars have a strong background dealing with the First Amendment, opposed to other amendments. But these scholars have a deeper understanding and appreciation for the First Amendment. Political science and law scholars do too, because you have to understand your amendments deeper than just the minimum, because you have to know how you can use it and how you can defend it and what you can do without breaking the law versus what you can do to break the law. And that comes to large crowds rioting and large groups spewing hate speech. Like they know it in more that way, and knowing how to use it and how to defend it. But they are only focused on that one thing. They're only focused on trying to defend it and how to keep it. This is what picture freedom of speech like this. First Amendment just like this. They want to keep it like this. But when it comes to us in school and what we want to do and how we want to use it like this. We want to use it as a box. Like it's two different things, two different shapes, if that makes sense to anybody. But I feel like scholars and people that work with the law, they only see it as an amendment, but we see it as a right. And when we're in school, we see it as like a right. Like, hey, I can say whatever I want to. I should be able to express myself how I want to, especially at this age, 18 to 22, 23, or however old you are when you're in school. You should be able to express how you feel and get all your feelings out and everything. But the law enforcement, law, like lawyers and law scholars and communication, political science majors, they like to just keep it as, this is the First Amendment, this is what it is, this is what you can and what you can't do, and this is how we're going to defend it, this is how we're going to keep it just the way it is, no different, and we're not going to change it. And if you don't like it, then oh well. So that's my little soapbox on the reading that we did. I really liked it. I really hope you guys like this video. As always, I'm all over the place with it, but I really like how to be used on college campuses and stuff like that, because schools allow us a freedom of speech to a certain extent. They like keep us on a leash, so we can say what we want, but can't say too much. So